Hey, this is John Carlos, and I went to Corner Store Comics and picked up the Kotobukiya Bishoujo statue of Cammy from Street Fighter. Included in the packaging are these two pieces of artwork on like plastic sheets. One is of Shunya Yoshimida's artwork of Cammy, and the other is of just the Street Fighter logo. And what you can do is put it in the base, which I guess we'll do right now. This little section pops out, and you just slide one in, just like so, and just sort of line it up properly. And there you go. And then you can just pop the figure's feet back on, and off we go. And we could start right now by taking a look at how well sculpted the laces of her feet are. You know, the sculpting on Kotobukiya Bishoujo statues are really good. And this is no different, including like crazy muscle definition sculpted into her legs. You can even see like the sculpted definition in her stomach along with the rippling fabric. And they did a really good pose with her. I like the dynamics of it. It's not just your basic like fists up fight. I do like the open palm. You've got one straight hand, one arm hand. There's a very simple dynamic to this, especially if you see like the Chun-Li figure where she's kicking and all that. I like that this one is a stance, which could get really boring, but it is a kind of a unique stance. I'll admit a little bit of an awkward one that's showing off her butt, but this is meant to be kind of like a cutesy, kind of foxy statue, so I get that. Here's a closer look at the sculpting of the fabric on the back of the statue and the muscle definition as well. Now, one thing that I like about this statue is the way they handled the feet on the base. Some statues use the old like peg on the bottom of the base that fits into a hole in the shoe, which is great if you've got like a flat shoe. But sometimes with more girly statues that have heels, you know, there's not a lot of room for a hole for a peg to go into, and when they do put it in, it kind of throws off the balance. Like the peg will go through the shoe and the figure will tip over. I like the fact that this base has sculpted wedges that fit into the heel, which I think is really, really cool. Speaking of cool, I really like the sculpting they did on her hair. These really long braids that hang down, and the fact that they kind of hold this position. I thought they might be really hard, but they are kind of soft. They are remotely bendy, but they still hold the shape really well, so I think they did a good job with that. One of the more dynamic things about Cammy are her long braids, so I think Koto's did a really good job of how they position these and how they stand out within this statue. Another thing they did a really good job on is her face. It's really cool the way they included those little front two wispy bangs to hang down. I think it's a really kind of dynamic thing. They're really good at those little like hair wispy things sticking out, usually on the top of their head to make them all cutesy, but I think this looks really, really good. I also really like the way they handled these gloves. I think the sculpt on them's really good. The solid paint. There's not a lot of definition to this paint, but it's a really good kind of metallic red, and I do dig it quite a bit. Now here's a closer look at her face, so you can see the detail that went into painting her eyelashes, and just like the quality of the blue on her eyes, and a little white reflective dot in her eyes. Now her lips look really good too. I think they did a good job with the pink of her lips. It's kind of hard in this lighting to see how much shading they did on her cheek, but I think they did a really good job with the detailing of the shading of her skin, kind of the pink on the little bottom eyelid of her. Not to mention the sculpting of the her hairline right there. I think they did a good job sculpting all that. But it's the paint on this that's really well done. In fact, the paint on this statue as a whole, it's one of the best things Kotobukiya does, is like the shading that they do along the muscle contours. You can see there's like a darker hue there within the dips in the skin, and this continues onto the leg area quite a bit, along like the thigh to hip definition, down along the thighs there. They even do shading along the stomach of this outfit. There's like a darker green being used on the abdomen area. The quality of their paint jobs is why I continue to buy Kotobukiya stuff as a collector, and this statue is a good example as to why. And don't get me wrong, the sculpting on this figure is really good. I think they did a great job with the fabric wrinkles and the muscle definition, and they did a really good job creating a pretty girl face, but it's the paint that really sells this. All the little details in her face, all the muscle shading on the skin, it's really good work. Now the interesting thing about this statue is that the pose that it's in, you can't really pose it from like the front as far as her legs being forward, her torso being forward. This is more of like a butt-centric statue, which forces you to pose it from one way, from behind. Which is fine for me, but I don't know how other people are going to feel about it. But I think it breaks up the monotony of all the usual forward-facing statues or side-facing statues. I dig it a lot. It's a unique way to, look at the character. It's a cool pose. I like it. Thanks for watching.